What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie298 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And once again, I got myself in a little bit of trouble on Twitter by talking about something that I thought was not like something controversial at all. I guess I probably should have realized otherwise, but I figure as a man of size, I have every right to talk about that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I was offering my opinion about this Cosmopolitan magazine cover, which includes a model by the name of Tess Holliday. A lot of people took what I had to say completely out of context, completely the wrong way, so I wanted to talk about this cover here and talk about Tess a little bit as well. And for those of you who are used to me apologizing and backtracking or anything like that, that is absolutely not what I'm doing here. I'm sticking to my guns. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know this is the message I've always had. It's the message I will always have when it comes to this topic. First off, I personally have no problem with Tess Holliday existing and doing what she does for a living and getting magazine covers. I'm happy for her success. As someone who's been big their whole life, I know the uphill battle that she is facing, especially being a plus-sized woman who's chosen to be a model. I can only imagine how difficult that has been for her. I'm sure there's been a lot of criticism, a lot of negativity, a lot of misery for her. I'm not going to be one of those people that offer that for her. I think it's great that she's successful, and I'm happy for her success. But a lot of people do have a problem with her existing, being on magazine covers, just being out in the world and being successful. A lot of people have had trouble with me being successful as a morbidly obese person, especially when I was at my biggest, saying that doing so celebrates morbid obesity, that it normalizes morbid obesity, and I have a lot to say about that. I personally never felt that my content ever celebrated morbid obesity. All of the Mountain Dew stuff and the overeating stuff and all of that stuff, it was tongue-in-cheek. I never meant to celebrate it, and I certainly never meant to encourage anybody else to stay the size they were or to get larger. My success was never because of my morbid obesity. I did use my morbid obesity to get me there, but my morbid obesity also kept me down quite a bit. And the reality of it is, I was successful in spite of how fat I was. And I think that's true for Tess. But I really can't argue about the fact that me being successful on YouTube, Tess being successful in magazines and as a model, actors and actresses who are morbidly obese being successful in their roles, it does normalize morbid obesity to some extent. That's kind of a good thing, though, because there's a lot of really heavy people in the world. The most recent statistics I could find from the CDC were back in 2010, but back in 2010, 67% of American adults were overweight, 30% were obese, and 5% of Americans are morbidly obese. Now, everything I've read has said that that number has dramatically increased in the last 8 years, but even if it was still the 2010 number, that means 1 out of every 20 people is morbidly obese. 1 out of every 20 people looks like Tess Holliday. I mean, that's not the norm. 19 out of 20 people are not that size. But, I mean, come on, if 67% of people, more than half of people are overweight, if 1 out of 20 people is Tess Holliday's size, then that's getting close to being pretty normal. And I have no problem with normalizing it in media at that point. If 1 out of every 20 people we see in a magazine cover was Tess Holliday, if 1 out of every 20 YouTubers we saw was me, if 1 out of every 20 people we see that's an actor or an actress on television was a person of size, I think that would be okay to see that properly reflected. I'm not requiring it. I'm not demanding it. I don't say we have to have that, but I think it's okay if that's what we choose to do. But in this particular case, it's not about equality. It's not about diversity or anything like that. It's about advertising. And Cosmo knows that 67% of their reading demographic is overweight, and 1 out of every 20 is going to be morbidly obese like Tess. If they want to market to those people by putting a heavy person on their magazine cover, why not? I have no problem with that. If it works, go for it. There is still one problem I have with all of this, though, and that's sometimes the media tends to celebrate Tess's morbid obesity. And some people would tend to celebrate mine as well, and I was always very, very uncomfortable about that because I think that's very irresponsible. Whenever I would talk about myself here on YouTube, I would often say that I was successful in spite of my morbid obesity, even though I'd use it for comedic effect quite often, even though I would talk about it quite often. When I did talk about it, I often encouraged you guys to understand how miserable it made me, how difficult it was to be that size, and how important it was to lose weight so that you could be healthier and happier. I feel like sometimes when the media talks about Tess, when Tess talks about herself, sometimes it seems like she's successful because of her morbid obesity, or that it doesn't have a negative impact on it, or that it doesn't affect her negatively in any way. I feel like sometimes that message can be disingenuous, and I get why they do it. There is no lack of negativity in the world. If someone is fat online, you're going to get told 1,000 times a day you shouldn't be fat. If you are fat out in public, you're going to probably get told a dozen times that you shouldn't be fat. Friends and family are going to constantly tell you and constantly negatively reinforce you and constantly shame you and constantly attack you. That's just the way the world is working right now. And so they try to create like a safe space in that magazine article around Tess, in the interviews and stuff like that, away from that for her. I understand that. It's just some people take that the wrong way. There are some people out there who, even though I preached against it every single day and continue to preach against it every day now, who think that it's okay to be morbidly obese. They think it's okay to be fat. They think it's okay to be overweight, that there is no negative side to it other than the social downside of it. That's frustrating for me. I think it is very important that every one of my viewers and every one of my listeners understand the untold mental and physical damage that being morbidly obese had done to me. And I'm not just talking about the social aspect of it, where it was very difficult hearing negative things about myself constantly all the time. I'm talking about the fact that health at any size, in my opinion, is not possible. Even though you can be healthy at a large size, Tess might be healthy right now. I don't think she is. But if she is, the bill will eventually come due. You are doubling the number of skin cells you have, so you're an increased risk of skin cancer. You're doing damage to your heart. Your heart will enlarge. Your vascular system has to do more work. You're shaving years off of your life. You're doing damage to your organs. You're not just at a higher risk of stuff, but you are actually experiencing damage every single day that will catch up to you in your late 30s, in your early 40s, certainly in your 50s. And someone Tess's size probably is not going to get to see 60. My health-related stuff started in my 20s when I couldn't walk very far. I couldn't move very far. I started getting joint pain in my early 30s. I got diagnosed with sleep apnea. I started having heart problems. I started having hypertension. I got diabetes. All of that stuff will happen to you if you stay Tess's size. If you stay my size, that stuff absolutely will happen to you earlier rather than later. And as you get older, well, a lot of us just won't get older because that stuff will kill us. And that's why when I talk about this stuff on Twitter, here on YouTube, in real life, I'm always encouraging people to be as healthy as you can be. And that includes being skinny still. Being skinny does not necessarily equate healthy. There's plenty of very sick, skinny people out there too. No matter who you are, no matter what size you are, I encourage you to be healthy so you can live the longest life you possibly can. And more importantly, live the highest quality life that you possibly can. Because as someone who's had a very, very low quality of life due to his morbid obesity, I don't want anyone to suffer like that. It's a stupid way to live. But here's the thing. I don't say that to every plus size person I meet or skinny person I meet. I don't see that to everybody I see drinking to excess or smoking to excess, or I save that for myself. I understand that we have autonomy of our own bodies. We have our own personal responsibilities. We can choose to do whatever we want to do. I try not to negatively reinforce outside of, these YouTube sermons, which you have to choose to click on if you want to see them to begin with. If you ask my opinion, that's my opinion, but I'm not going to offer it if you don't want it. And now we're coming to what I shared on Twitter, and you know exactly what I'm going to say here. I'm going to take the middle of the road approach because I think that's the most peacekeeping option, and I am, at heart, a peacekeeper. I think it's okay for Tess Holliday to exist in media. I think it's okay for plus-size actors and actresses to exist, and I think it's okay for morbidly obese YouTubers to exist, and I think it's okay if you just let them be and live their lives and leave it between them and their doctors. Not every article has to be about how unhealthy it is. Not every video I create has to be about how unhealthy it is. And you certainly don't have to make every comment on my videos about how unhealthy it is. I don't think obesity or being overweight or morbid obesity or being underweight or being too skinny or any other eating disorder needs to be celebrated, nor does it need to be condemned. I just think it's a part of life, and as any part of life, I think it's just something that's a personal choice for every person out there, whether they want to be healthy or not, and it's between them, their doctor, their maker, and I guess, their mortician. And I think that's what Cosmo is trying to do here. They're not trying to celebrate, they're not trying to shame, they're not trying to condemn. I mean, they're trying to sell magazines first, but beyond that, I think it's just about letting people live their lives, looking the way they are, being the way they are, choosing what they want to choose. And I think that's an okay world to want to live in. That's the world I want to live in. But if you made it all the way to this point in the video, I'd really like to hear your opinion on this topic. Let me know in the comments section below. Are you overweight? Have you ever been overweight? Are you underweight? If you're skinny, are you trying every day to be healthy? Are you trying to assure the highest quality of life and highest quantity of life for you can, for yourself if you can? What do you think about Tess? What do you think about my opinion on this stuff? Let me know in the comment section below. While you're down there, drop a like on this video. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon. And Tess, I know you won't see this, but if you ever do, I wish you the best. I hope you're healthy.